What is Makani's favorite way to send money to friends and family, and why? Not cash. I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I thought it would be cash.
Oh, well,
It's good to
there's
know.
has some benefits for sure.
It does. So I'm guessing it's going to be private and secure. My only ask is that it can please be easy.
Yeah, actually, it is.
Good, good. Okay, I'm excited to hear about your favorite way. What disturbing Venmo privacy setting has been causing problems for years? Look, I'm already a little leery of using Venmo, and now we're talking disturbing privacy settings. Like, great. This is exactly what I didn't want to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, once we start talking about that, I'm curious to hear what where that comes from. So you have to
Yeah, absolutely. I'll,
yeah,
I'll share with you kind of why I'm a little leery of it.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
okay, so this next question I'm excited for. What major PayPal policy change is coming next summer? Anytime the word major change comes up, it piques my interest. Major change. So I want to know what's coming. But my guess is when we say major change and we're talking to our group, there's probably going to be a trickle down or maybe even a ripple effect. Is that correct?
It'll be hard to say. I hope so, but it's yeah. We'll dive into that aspect of it too when we talk about it. That's an interesting follow up question. I like where you're thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I'm Nick, and this is Super Simple Security Principles. Listen each week and learn how to think, not what to think. This is episode 43, Private Person to Person Payment. Yes, I knew we'd be addressing that private part.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So
where do we
yeah.
start, man? You got some of
Well,
my feelings already.
yeah. And I've used some other ones over the years, but my current preferred solution and why is what I want to cover today. And this might change again in the future. There's a lot of this is just like with all our tools, they come and go. But I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that this one is going to last for a while. Anyway, it's called Zelle, and if you see it in writing, it's Zelle, and I always wondered how do you pronounce it, but I looked it up, and it is just pronounced Zelle. So,
Easy
and
enough. That's what I would have guessed.
yeah, it's fast, it's free, and it transfers money directly from your bank account to theirs.
Okay.
And so, I private and secure, that's a little bit trickier question. I feel like, and that's one of the things you talked about. I mean, I did put private in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, your bank. I mean, obviously your bank knows all your stuff. That doesn't feel very private to me. You
Fair
know what I
point.
mean? But you're not adding anybody like PayPal or Venmo to the mix. It's within the banking system. So from my perspective,
Okay.
it's probably as private and secure as you're going to get since we're talking about the regular banking industry. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Well, and especially we're trying to send funds from one place to another. You
Yep.
know, there's usually an additional party involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I want to talk about today is basically why it's my favorite
Okay.
uh, and how to get started.
All right. Let's hear why it's your favorite. Like,
Yeah, well, so we're gonna have kind of one big reason, and then a few smaller ones will batch up. And the first really big reason is, and is because it isn't PayPal.
okay.
Yeah, and I don't usually go quite that negative or have that as a reason, an anti one, but anyway, it's something I could talk about for a fair while, but we're just going to share under this, we're going to share two reasons why I have PayPal issues. And the first is referencing that opening question about the policy change. And I have a quote here that's taken from PayPal's directly, and I'm just going to read this one for you, and then we'll talk about it. So they say, we are updating our privacy statement to explain how, starting early summer 2025, we will share information to help improve your shopping experience and make it more personalized for you. The, the key update to the privacy statement explains how we will share information with merchants to personalize your shopping experience and recommend our services to you. Personal information we disclose includes, for example, products, preferences, sizes, and styles we think you'll like. Information gathered about you after the effective date of our updated privacy statement, November 27th, 2024, will be shared with participating stores where you shop unless you live in California, North Dakota, or Vermont. For PayPal customers in California, North Dakota, or Vermont, we'll only share your information with those merchants if you tell us to do so. No matter where you live, you'll always be able to exercise your right to opt out of this data sharing by updating your preference settings in your account under data and privacy. I could see on your face lots of thoughts. You want to translate this one to a short and sweet version of it, Nick?
Yeah, that data should never be shared. Like, to me, that's a huge invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
Like, granted, you can apparently opt out of it,
Right.
but I don't want you collecting that data to begin with,
Right. Well, so the thing is, I mean, if you're shopping through their platform, right, that's how they're gathering the data. If you're
Right.
using PayMal to shop at places. So, I mean, the gathering part is sort of inherent in that, right? At least
True.
to some degree, right?
Right.
But one of the points you pointed out is opting out, right? First of all, the ubiquitous having to opt out instead of opt in is bad.
Right.
And so the way I would sum it up is basically PayPal is turning your private shopping data into their latest product. And honestly, I think part of it is probably because of the increased competition, because Zelle and other things are increasing. And so they're probably struggling. I don't know the numbers. This is pure speculation. But anyway, that's the latest policy change.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be a ripple effect. I'm going to have to opt out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I guess what I was thinking with the ripple, Nick, is it's one of those things where they are announcing it, like, you'll get an email if you have a PayPal account, but all I'll say is there's an update to your privacy statement, and most people, I stopped and paid attention to it just because that's my industry. That's, I watch these things.
Right.
But most people are probably, my guess is, just going to, delete. I mean, it's, big page of legalese. Who's going to read that and see, So
that's what I do.
Why
I would delete it, thinking I'm okay. Make me opt into that.
Yeah. Well, they know people won't. That's the thing. That's going to take some effort.
Who would?
So, yeah.
So we're just going to take it from you unless you proactively make this step.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I had another thought there, but I lost my train of thought. So,
my bad.
No, not your bad at all. I was just so that's good. We'll move on to the second point of PayPal. Not of PayPal. Well, yeah, actually, of PayPal is that PayPal owns Venmo. And has since 2013, which means that Venmo's failings are also PayPal's. And like I alluded to in that opening question, Venmo has a huge one, which is their default privacy setting. Because by default, information about the payments you make using Venmo are, and I'm quoting from their app, visible to everyone on the internet. That's wording from the Venmo app itself, like, no joke.
And you nailed on the head why I've always been leery of Venmo.
Okay.
The fact that I had to change a bunch of settings, like, and I still think it's super, super sketchy. Like, this is crazy that people want that visible to everyone on the internet. Can we look?
Yeah.
Anybody can get on the internet and see that transaction.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
heavens.
they've raised the bar just a little bit, despite their wording in there. But for example, if you go into Venmo like right now, anybody that's on my friends list and that hasn't changed the setting that we're going to talk about, any payment they have with anybody is visible right there in the app, like it's volunteering, like presenting itself. It used to be, and this is, like I said, a little bit harder. I didn't even actually try to do it, but in the early days, and there's been lots of articles online about this, and a lot of publicity. There was a petition that was gathered with 25,000 signatures. Anyway, it's been known since like 2017, and it used to be even easier to scrape and collect like all payments.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it include, and just to be clear on what payment, when we say payment information, that includes the date the payment was made, the person you paid, and even if you include like a little reason, like when you send it, asks you if you send a message about like eggs or groceries or sweater or whatever, it'll mention that. The only thing that's left out of the payment, thank goodness, is the amount.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, but the good news is, it's just, you can fix it immediately. You can go adjust your own privacy settings to change it to be private. And then any payment that you're involved with, either sending or receiving, will be private regardless of the other party's setting. And we actually sent out a quick tip about this an email earlier this year. So for anybody who's listening, if you care about this, you like this, you missed that quick tip, you can go sign up for that. And I'll put a link in the show notes. But both for the quick tips as well as fixing your Venmo privacy setting. So
follow those instructions if you haven't.
Yeah. So that's, I could go on, but hopefully that's enough to show why I don't love PayPal/Venmo.
Yeah, I get it. I'm totally there with you.
Yeah. And just to be clear though, I do like, if there's, a friend or family, and I don't always I don't make them go to Zelle. I will use PayPal and Venmo. They're not so bad as long as my usage minimal and I have the setting, they're my last resort. So
that's good. I've got a family member that on my birthday consistently Venmos me, and I absolutely love this family member, and I'm not going to complain.
Exactly.
But it's the one time and only time I pretty much get on there, I feel like.
Yep, exactly. That's my mentality. I try not to be too pushy, especially just with friends and family about the things. If they ask me,
right.
I'll give them all the advice in the world. But so okay, so now enough of the bad stuff. Now we've got the things I actually talk about Zelle itself rather than just other things. And there's a few. Well, there's kind of three big things. One, well, I don't know, 3-4 big things, depending on how you classify them. Anyway.
Okay.
So one is it's fast. I mentioned this earlier, but every time I've used it, and my usage isn't like crazy extensive. I've 10 or 20 times probably, but every time I've used it, the money has arrived within minutes.
Okay, so we're talking fast.
Yeah. It's free. Zelle works with your bank to offer the services. And so like, it's kind of, why you have free checking and these sorts of things. They cover the costs rather than you. Now, my understanding is that each individual bank actually has the option of, like Zelle themselves wouldn't charge, but the bank could, that provides it. Because Zelle, instead of like being an add-on service like instead of being a separate standalone service like PayPal or Venmo, it's basically an add-on that your bank integrates with. And so Zelle
Okay.
itself doesn't charge, but your bank could if they decided to. Now, they
Gotcha.
don't at mine, and I haven't encountered anybody that I've worked, the friend or family of mine that have, but just, make sure you check that because it could happen. I don't,
Right. Just a
yeah,
little
don't,
disclaimer.
yeah, exactly. Yep. And then third is, and we talked about this earlier as well, but it's direct, meaning it comes directly from your bank account and goes, to the other person's or vice versa. As opposed to like PayPal and Venmo that we're talking about, where you have to wait for it to clear or transfer it from like the PayPal balance to your bank.
Right.
So a little bit simpler, a little bit faster. Yeah. And then the last one, and this kind of goes to the whole private security aspect, sort of, is the ownership. So Zelle is provided by a company named Early Warning Services, and it's a huge financial tech company that's owned by 7 of the country's largest banks. So, if you're using a bank that, you're trusting the banking industry, it's the banking industry itself that's doing this. It's not some outside
Okay.
party that you have to worry about is getting, maybe they're going to be sketchy and scamming you. Like, it's the banks themselves. It's as trustworthy as the banking industry themselves, which is a separate question, but it's,
True.
that's, that makes sense.
Yep.
So, okay. So, any questions or comments on reasons or anything else so far?
No, I've been digging it thus far.
Okay. So we just now let's talk, and it's not a lot to it. It is, like we said, simple, but how we get started.
Okay, yeah.
So the way you contact your bank, or as in my case, a credit union. And I have an app with my credit union, as I think most banks and credit unions do these days.
Right.
And that's where you end up going to send money through Zelle. And just like everywhere, you have to, have a way to identify who the money is going to when you're sending, right? So you've got to pick a phone number or an email address or both as your Zelle address to receive money at.
Okay.
And that's really as much of a Zelle account that you have to set up. It's an add-on to your existing bank account.
Okay.
Now, one heads up is, depending on when exactly you listen to this episode, if you go thinking, okay, well, I got to go download the Zelle app like I do for PayPal or Venmo, as of today, there actually is a Zelle app, because as I understand it, like, that was part of how they were helping get adoption and getting it started. But now that it's gotten big enough, they're actually phasing that out. They're getting rid of the app and just counting on everybody using all the
Your
individual bank and
bank
credit
login.
union apps themselves and having it integrated there. So you don't even want to go down that path. If you see it, just ignore that. And so then once you've set up sending or receiving money, is you just go into that app, enter your friend's email or phone number, and at least for mine, and I'm guessing most of them, they'll remember who I've sent to before as well. So I can just pick from a previous person as well. And send it, and that's it.
Simple.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah. Sounds pretty slick.
Yeah,
I do like that I don't have to go get any additional add-on apps. That's
yeah,
nice.
exactly. Rare these days.
Right. Very rare.
Or have another password.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the one warning I want to give about Zelle, because the one feature it lacks compared to PayPal, since that's what we've mostly been comparing, that's its biggest competitor, is it does not have what PayPal terms as purchase protection. Which means if you're sending money with Zelle, do not count on getting it back.
Gotcha.
Like, think of it as handing over cash. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone.
Use Zelle with people you personally know and trust in real life. That's what I do.
Okay.
Because, of course, just like everything else these days, there are folks trying to scam you using Zelle.
Go figure.
And actually, Early Warning Services has another service that they're coming out with called Paze, P-A-Z-E. I guess they like the letter Z. That it looks like they're trying to build up now that they've kind of established a lot of success with Zelle, that will be specifically targeted at businesses, doing payments for businesses. Just like, you can use PayPal with businesses, this will be a different thing. Zelle is really more friends and family, but this other one will be. So, once that's more up and running, if it gets enough adoption, we may cover that in the future as well. But anyway.
I like it.
So
that'd be a nice feature to have.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's our call to action?
So I've got a triple call to action today. I know. Well, because here's the thing. They're all super small.
Okay.
And they're all conditional depending on your money habits.
All right.
So the first one is, if you use Venmo, go fix your privacy settings like now. It takes all of 1 minute. I mean, obviously you have to click on the link, or if you open up the Venmo app, honestly, it's not that hard to find. It's pretty easy. But if you want help, you can click on the link. Super fast. Number 2, if you use PayPal, take a moment to opt out of their new data sharing policy. Same thing as with Venmo. I mean, it's like 1 minute, and it's that one's a little trickier to find, but you go to the gear setting, you go to data and privacy and personalized shopping. So
yeah, they did hide that a little bit with that personalized shopping, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, these days that's a buzzword for me. I know personalized shopping probably means invasion of privacy, but sure. Anyway, there'll be a link for that in the show notes as well. And then third, of course, is about Zelle. If you transfer money between friends or family, I'd suggest you give Zelle a try. It's, like we said, it's fast, free, direct, owned by the banks. And this one, of course, takes a little bit longer than the first two. But my guess for most people, it's not going to take more than 10 minutes.
Nice.
And so this episode is going to be heavy. There's a lot of links for all these different things. I'm actually going to include a couple links about both the policy change and the Venmo privacy settings, some of the nonsense that's gone out over the years, happened, whatever.
So just a heads up, we're going to have lots of links.
Yep.
Feel click happy so that you can run through those links and get a feel for what's going on.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. There you go. That's our show. Can we get this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's our super simple show today. If you're not a member of the IHP Academy already, please come join us for free. Stop searching the whole internet for answers and never knowing who to trust. Ask us instead. We made it super simple to find us, and it only takes 2 minutes to sign up. Just visit helpmegetsafe.com. Enter your name and your email. You're in. You can also find the link in our show notes. Thank you for joining us, and make it a great day. Bye-bye.